Hey there, it's been a while. I'm Marcus, and for those of you that are on the community channels like Discord, you'll probably also see me as Delta. In this video, I'm going to be talking about the results from the 2024 BOINC census. And if you want to go and see the raw data from the census, it'll be on GitHub and also on the Science Commons Initiative website, where you can also see the data and the results from the previous two censuses as well. So let's hop in. So a little bit about this particular census. I decided to do things a little bit differently. So for those of you that have participated in the previous censuses, the questions this time were more freeform and more like freeform text fields that you can basically just put in whatever you want. The reason I did this was because in the last couple censuses I got a lot of feedback in the very last section where I asked, like, is there anything we can improve about the census or BOINC? A lot of people gave very detailed responses in that big text field. So I wanted to do a little experiment, see if having a lot more free text to speak your mind about BOINC would help with this particular census. So you see in this particular analysis, I've included a lot of textual analysis. Nothing too big, just basically just going through all the responses. And thank you everyone for going through and providing those detailed responses. There was a lot of stuff I had to go and read through. Took a little while, but we got there. And you guys have some pretty cool things to talk about, so we're going to take a look at that later on in this presentation. But I also just wanted to make a note that I've omitted some of the questions from this analysis, purely because I personally don't think it's interesting or worth like mentioning some of the results of the questions, mainly because they either don't differ from last year or like they're just stuff that's mainly used for long term. Like for example, the demographics data I haven't included in this presentation because I personally think that's better off as a long-term metric and seeing how that changes over time. So currently we've only got about like now 3 years worth of that data. So I'm mainly like, I'll probably pull it up in maybe a later census to see like how it's changed over a very long period of time. I also just want to apologize for the communications with the BOINC census. It was a little bit my fault. There weren't that many communications this particular census. Latter half of 2024 was quite busy for me. Amongst work, I was also moving houses. So yeah, apologies for not being there to help communicate the census. But anyway, we got there, so let's go and take a look. Let's talk about participation. So all in all, there were just under 300 submissions to the BOINC census this year. Last year was roughly around 500. And we had 99 incomplete forms, so that's people who went through the form and didn't complete it fully. Now, those results that weren't fully completed are not being included in this analysis. So everything else that you see from here on is only for fully completed census submissions. As I said, yeah, comms could have been done a lot better to get a much wider view. So, star ratings. I think this is something new that I included in the census. At work, I use, or my company uses NPS, called Net Promoter Score, to figure out how well customers are at pretty much promoting the product. So I thought I'd do something kind of similar for BOINC. So I asked, how would you rate your experience using the BOINC software, and also, what's your experience in engaging with the BOINC community for 2024? So taking a look at the BOINC community on the left-hand side, seems that people are pretty keen on the BOINC community. They've rated it mostly like 4 to 5 stars. So looks pretty fine. Same with the BOINC software. Get around like roughly 4 to 5 in terms of star ratings. I apologize for the histograms. Basically all this data I've just dumped into a spreadsheet and just done Google Charts. So I'm not the best with statistical analysis, but I'm okay with Google Sheets as far as I know how to use it. So let's talk about impact. These impact metrics I think are also in the previous censuses as well. And in general, there's no real change. The data that you see here is mostly the same from the last 2 years. I split up the questions into individual contributions on the left-hand side, and also the global contributions. So it's the difference between like what you think you as an individual contribute versus the system as a whole. So like, is BOINC actually making any impact in the world versus how much impact do you think you're making? So yeah, these metrics haven't really changed. BOINC churn. So I wanted to know if there's a lot of people quitting BOINC and whether they're stepping away indefinitely. So in summary, not a lot of people stopped. Only about 3% of respondents have said that they've stopped using BOINC. So based on this 3%, the most common reasons include electricity. Living in Australia, I can definitely resonate with this, and also work. So yeah, not much super interesting here or out of the ordinary that you wouldn't otherwise expect. Seasonality. This is something I wanted to start tracking, or at least ask in one of the BOINC censuses. And basically what I wanted to know is, when you crunch BOINC during the year, do you sometimes stop during like summer, for example? I know that I definitely do, purely because it will literally melt me in my apartment because Australian summers are hot as hell. And I want to see how many other people also stopped during the summer. So about 25%, about a quarter of respondents said that they temporarily stopped BOINC crunching for more than 2 months within the year, which I find is pretty surprising. So what I don't find too surprising is my assumption that people stop during the summer months. So in the chart at the bottom, you'll find that over half of these people who said yes said that it's too hot to actually crunch BOINC. It'll either fry the computer or fry yourself and cook yourself alive in the sauna of your own room. But other options, mainly just work and travel. So people usually take long breaks. Also just working, it's hard to manage your own BOINC system. Even though, like, theoretically BOINC's aim is to just sit in the background and run. But like me, I like to tweak with it quite often. So yeah, it's a bit distracting, so employment will probably affect that. So I wanted to look at BOINC mobile usage. As usual, it's pretty low. But the interesting thing is, and one thing I probably didn't ask during the other censuses, is why aren't you using BOINC on mobile? This one's a bit interesting. So over half the respondents said that they don't want to damage their phones. Understandable. I don't really like the idea of my phone getting really hot overnight while I have it charging. And but if I have a spare phone, I wouldn't mind that at all. The interesting thing here, though, is that a lot of the respondents said that they didn't actually know there was a BOINC mobile app. One possible reason of this is because it's not on the Google Play Store, and also BOINC is just not compatible with iOS at all. So the only way to actually get BOINC on mobile, I believe, is through F-Droid, which is the Play Store for Android that allows apps that can't essentially get onto the Play Store. There's a lot of reasons why the BOINC app has been booted off the Play Store, but I won't get into those details in this presentation. And surprisingly, a lot of people said that they don't have any mobile devices, or at least maybe those that won't be compatible with BOINC. There's also a lot of major responses saying that they're not sure that their favorite project they're not sure that their favorite project actually runs on BOINC Android. So the way I see this data being used is, I don't know, maybe some more advertising or just like some social media posts just pointing users to say like, hey, there is a BOINC mobile app. You should try it. It's on F-Droid. Here's how to install it. Stuff like that. So moving on. Bit of fun. I had an interesting question in this census. Not sure if it's going to be useful at all, but I asked people when you get a BOINC task, it has a deadline. And when that deadline ends, your BOINC manager will try and abort it or get rid of it. And what that deadline means is when your computer does not complete that work unit within by the time that deadline specifies, the server will then send a work unit out to another computer to complete. You might still complete that work unit even though it's reached its deadline. The BOINC manager will, I think, stop or abort that task because it's not going to be worth it, because the other person who's received that new task with that new deadline is going to get the credits for that work unit. So I thought I'd ask, hey, what deadline would you prefer as a cruncher? And the majority of people said 1 week. Pretty reasonable. But also 2 weeks was a pretty big response as well. There's some wacky ones in here, like less than a day. I don't know why anyone would want a deadline less than a day. Maybe they just want really quick tasks. And then 3 months or more, not that many. So, are you eager for a game? A lot of people have talked about gamifying BOINC. And I know that a lot of people also follow the BOINC competitions. So I thought I'd ask, would you be interested in participating in a competition? So we could probably pretty easily figure out how many people are entering into particular competitions, but as a proportion of the whole BOINC community, we don't really know that figure. So this is what this question is trying to answer. Are you interested in participating in an online BOINC-related competition? More than half of respondents said yes, and they don't care if there's a prize. And the amount of people who need a prize to be incentivized to actually participate in this competition is very low. So, and also, if you also consider the people who are willing to watch rather than participate, you get an overall participation rate of around 75%. So roughly 75% of the community are quite interested in BOINC competitions. So that brings us to an interesting thing I found in these results. Don't know who posted this because all the submissions are anonymous, but someone mentioned boincgames.com. Go and search it up. I thought this was pretty cool. It's in the beta stage, so it looks like it's still in development, but it looks like just basically a big site where you can go and participate in BOINC games. I'm going to go and take a more deeper look at this afterwards, so go and check it out. Alright, let's get into some ideas. So, what would you like to see happen to BOINC in the next year? This one was a mix between multiple choice and open-ended response. What I mean by that is you could only pick one option as the most important thing you would like to see happen to BOINC in the next year, or you could just pitch in your own. So I haven't omitted the individual responses from here, but the majority of responses lied between two things, which is I want to see a new project and I want a better user interface. A lot of the anecdotal feedback I went through regarding the interface and UI, UX side of things was not really because they think it's old-fashioned and clunky, but really because I saw a few responses mentioning that they think that if the UI and UX was improved, that it would more easily attract more people to BOINC. So that was some of the reasoning behind that I saw in some of the data. But also a new project to crunch. Everyone likes new projects to crunch. It's an interesting new type of science. I remember probably my favorite one was DHEP. That one was, what was it? It was the Distributed Hardware Evolution Protocol, I think it was. That was a really interesting project. I'd really love to see another one of those pop up. Because the idea of creating some sort of electrical circuit that's self-healing or most optimal for a particular thing is pretty cool. A lot of people also had similar responses towards that. I'll also show you later on in a different slide. But people really love being able to show off some sort of discovery, like a prime number or a supernova remnant or a neutron star, something from Einstein, or even just discovering a protein or something, or being listed on a research paper. People seem to love that. That's probably one of the core things about BOINC that makes people use it, based on what I've read. Another small interesting thing I wanted to pull out of this data in particular was a BOINC newsletter. You can see there in the orange, there's 7%, by the looks of it, of people who said that they would like to see a BOINC newsletter. If I were to receive a BOINC newsletter, I'd want probably a list of latest discoveries, maybe, like a monthly summary of what discoveries have happened. Maybe even like just a list of new prime numbers. I think a lot of projects also do like user of the day. So I think that'd be kind of cool to see like top users and stuff like that, all in just like a summary email. I know that I go through newsletters and stuff while I'm on the train to work. It's nice to keep up with the news and stuff like that. So why not have a little BOINC one? Just an idea. So, how do we get more computer power? One thing I asked was, what is one thing that would get you to run BOINC more? So we're looking at problems that are stopping people from running BOINC, or like being able to use their computers how they want to when using BOINC. So the most obvious and biggest one is electricity cost. I pay a ton of money for my electricity, and I'm probably this year going to be reducing the amount of BOINC that I crunch purely because of the electricity cost. But the next major thing after that was reliability of work units. Now, this was an interesting one. So I've also encountered this as well. It's when a project, you sign up to a project and yeah, you get a couple of work units here and there, and then suddenly it's like dead silence for like weeks, months even, and then there's another batch of work, and then it's all gone. There might be a couple of problems to this. Some people might argue that hoarding work units is an issue, and that's why there's a distinct lack of work units sometimes, or like a dodgy supply of work. But it also just could be the way that the project works. Like sometimes projects set up work batches, and then once that particular small sub project is complete and all the work's done, then they have to go on and like figure out what are they working on next. But that's probably one of the major things that I saw in here, both in this data and also the anecdotal data, is that just having a reliable supply of work is good. Because essentially you come to BOINC, you want to volunteer. If there's no work, then what's the point? You're just going to get disengaged. And there were a couple people I saw in some of the comments saying that when they were running BOINC, they were running into performance issues while they were running their computer. I've seen this very slightly on my own personal computers in the past, where you're running, I don't know, like a GPU project or something like that, and then you go and watch a YouTube video or do some other sort of slightly graphics intensive thing on your computer, and you get a little bit of lag, maybe a little bit of tearing, and just poor performance experience overall. That's kind of expected if you're running your computer 100%, but the part of the aim of BOINC is to be able to run it in the background. Yeah, maybe there might want to be some things looked into there. But also, if you're using BOINC and you don't know this already, there are some options to be able to stop BOINC from running while you're actually using the computer. And then when you're idle for however many minutes, it'll just come back on and start crunching again. So, why do you use BOINC? There are a lot of interesting stories in this one. I decided to put a little word art chart or word cloud in here because it was kind of hard to summarize basically like a common theme. So I thought I'd show off some of the more common words that pop up. So there are a lot of people who have just a general passion for science. Like they like contributing to science, but It's other than participating in research, there aren't really many other options. And BOINC is one of the things that they use to feel like they're contributing to the scientific field, or just something they love, like astronomy, stars, physics, maths, and even just prime numbers, like being able to find something and claim it as your own, like you found this prime number. A lot of people also said that finding use for old hardware is also a big thing for them. I know that I came to BOINC because I had a computer and I'm like, hey, this thing can play games, but what else can it do? And essentially that's how I stumbled upon BOINC. A couple other people who had the same notion as well. And surprisingly enough, a lot of people said that they use BOINC to heat up their home in winter. And they were looking for something specifically for their computer to warm up their room in the winter and do something useful on the side as well, rather than paying for a heater. And also just generally people finding community. Like just engaging with the community is fun for them, and they found like tons of cool people, and also just it's a engaging community. And I guess they like the stuff that happens, so here they are. What are some highlights in 2024? Congrats to David Baker for winning the Nobel Prize in, I think it was chemistry? Something along those lines. David Baker works with Rosetta at home. So congratulations. It's a really big feat. There are a lot of people who mention that in the census. A lot of people also mentioned that they found their first prime. So that was something I mentioned earlier. People really like the fact that they can actually find prime numbers and claim some sort of discoveries of their own. That's probably what I think is one of the core things that BOINC does. More discoveries. So people really like primes, but they also like the other discoveries as well, like, I don't know, maybe a new protein, new vaccine, or something like that. Or even at Einstein at home, they have neutron stars and supernova that they discover. Also, there are a couple of people who mentioned that they wanted to thank the devs for the releases that came out for BOINC this year. So kudos to the main BOINC devs, or anyone who's contributed to BOINC. It is an open source project after all. Thank you all for all the releases in 2024 on behalf of all people who participated in Census. So what do you want to see in BOINC? This was more of a free-form question as well, and there were a lot of very different opinions. Some people are more pessimistic than others, and some people are a lot more optimistic. So there's a couple things I'm going to go through here which kind of stuck out to me. So a lot of the things I found were pain points. So one of them was fine-tune resource management. What I mean by that is managing your CPU and GPU resources is kind of cumbersome. And there's a lot of people who have complicated hardware setups, sometimes old hardware setups as well. And one thing they really like is being able to properly fine-tune those resources and that hardware. So tinkerers, enthusiasts, there's a lot of them out there, and they want to be able to fine-tune things. There are also a lot of people who have trouble with troubleshooting, just figuring out what's wrong, why it's wrong, and how to fix it, and also just managing multiple devices. There are a few people who mentioned that they manage quite a few devices for BOINC. They want to be able to do so remotely, and also maybe install it on multiple devices at once, remotely as well. People want new projects as well. As I said earlier, very keen on jumping in on a new project. I know that if there was a new project that came out today, I'd jump on it right now today and go and crunch it. I'm sure that a lot of you probably watching the video too will also want to do the same. Newsletter. There are a couple mentions outside of the actual question regarding this, for having some sort of BOINC newsletter. even if it's something just as simple as like, what's the latest stats of the month, or what are the discoveries in the last month or so. Just an idea thrown out there. So yeah, there was a bunch of people who also mentioned similar things. Then what else we got? Blue Sky presence. So for those of you that might not know, Twitter has become X and Elon Musk's little playground, and a lot of people are flocking to Blue Sky, which is a new social media platform as a result. So I'm actually not sure if we have a presence on Blue Sky, but I now use Blue Sky a little bit as well. So yeah, if we want to have some sort of bigger presence on Blue Sky, I reckon that'd be pretty cool. And I think we should probably focus a lot of our efforts on Blue Sky and Twitter as well. I believe those are the I think the biggest social media platforms that BOINC users use. Reddit is also among that top one as well. There are a couple of people who also wanted merchandise for BOINC, which is interesting. I think we did have a Redbubble. I think the Science Commons Initiative did have a Redbubble store, which had some BOINC merchandise in it. Not a lot of people bought it though. So I don't know if it was maybe lack of advertising or something else, but yeah, merchandise might be another thing to bring back, but maybe in a different way this time. In addition to that, social media comms kind of links with the newsletter thing as well. People really want to see live stats about BOINC, and also just stay up to date with discoveries and stuff. Everyone would probably enjoy seeing like, oh hey, massive new prime was discovered today, or we just discovered a new neutron star from gravitational waves. So I reckon more publicizing of results is what quite a few people want. And a lot of people were claiming that, or trying to find ways to figure out how people who are less tech savvy or more new to BOINC could have an easier onboarding experience. There's a general belief that a lot of new people are joining BOINC because you go into it and then like it takes a little while to get a project set up. It's cumbersome. You got to go to like different websites. You might even have to look up like a YouTube tutorial on how to install BOINC. And people, I think, generally believe that there's a drop-off point there. So the only people who are able to get through that massive process of installing BOINC and getting it set up and everything are really the enthusiasts. So maybe making the UI and UX easy to use, especially for beginners and those who are less tech savvy, might be a potential option. But yeah, that's why I believe a lot of the mention of outdated UI is rooted in the fact that we're assuming the problem might be that beginners are dropping off too quickly when they pick up BOINC. But yeah, those are kind of like the main points that I found in the anecdotal evidence. There are a lot of funny responses as well. So if you want to go through and check them, yeah, there's a couple of people who just flicked through the form, didn't want to fill out any of the free form text. I get that. This census was quite long, so I do expect a lot of people to either quit halfway through or just see it as like way too long. I do want to try and keep the census as short. It saves work on my end and also work on your end for filling out the census. So hopefully next year we'll try and keep it short. But this is the end of the census, so just wanted to thank you all for watching, and I'll see you next year for the next census.